So the market has been super strong as of late, making all-time high after all-time high, running like a freight train. And while a lot of traders like myself and those in the team here are making a lot of money here on this good strong market run, there are going to be those traders who are starting to call for the top, right? There's going to be the traders saying the market is overbought, the market is extended, it's time for this thing to pull back. And now, while there is the chance of a pullback sometime soon, especially if we continue to run with strength here, the question is, how do you go about potentially identifying that top? During the course of a strong market like this, if you try to catch the top and your timing is off, rather you try to predict the top, you can get ran right the hell over. So what we're going to talk about in this video, guys, is a list of a few things you can look at over the next few weeks, over the next month or so, to get a feel for when the next pullback might be taking place. So let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing that we're going to want to look for if we're trying to get a feel for whether or not the market is ready to pull back is the daily volume. If you look at the few most recent nasty drops in the market and you look at the volume down here, you'll notice a large spike in above average selling volume on a daily basis. Typically, guys, the market is really going to roll over. It's going to reach its short-term top when the selling pressure comes in. So as you can see right now, we've got nothing but day after day after day of above average buying volume here for the S&P 500. When we do potentially reach our top and when profit taking starts, and depending on the magnitude of the pullback, this will be one of the first telltale signs. We will see a big time die down in the average buying volume, and eventually we will see the selling pressure come in. So as far as volume goes, that's going to be one of the first indications we're going to look for to potentially call that quote unquote market top. So the third thing we're going to want to be keeping an eye out for as far as calling a market top is selling distribution in the strongest names as of late. Names that come to mind, guys, are something like a BABA, right? Something like an Apple, something like, of course, Tesla here, something like an AMD, even something like an NVIDIA. You could even throw something like Microsoft here into the list. When big money is satisfied with this run, when big money wants to leave equities and kind of, get out of that exposure, we're going to continue to see, or begin to see rather, a lot of selling pressure in those leading names. The names that have been strongest, that's typically where the profits are going to be taken first. So just like we want to look for volume there, selling volume on the indexes, you're going to want to look at things like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, AMD, and NVIDIA. These names that have been so strong as of late, a lot of big money has been made by the big time players on Wall Street. When they begin to take profits in those leading names, that has an impact on the entire market. So along with looking for volume coming in on the sell side on the indexes themselves, these strong names like BABA, Apple, and etc., we're going to want to look for signs of profit taking there as well with the average daily volume. Now the fourth thing that we're going to want to look for, and the fourth thing here, guys, is really the most important. You can do a little bit of homework this weekend. Pull up a chart of the S&P 500, pull up a chart here of the VIX, the volatility index, and what I want you guys to do is take a look at the role that volatility plays during nasty market pullbacks. Is a general statement. If you're in the focus trades family, you've heard me say this hundreds of times. When volatility is spiking, holding, and ripping above the $16 level, that is typically when the markets are in rough shape. At the best case scenario, they're choppy back and forth. However, when volatility is really spiking, that's when we can see an ugly market environment, and that's going to be our first indication that a potential top is in. These little momentary spikes above 16, that shit really isn't that meaningful. However, these big time spikes, that's what we want to keep an eye for. So over the next few weeks, the next month, we start to see volatility spiking above 16, holding above that level for day after day, and continuing to rise. That's one potential sign that the market top is in. Alright, and the last thing that we're going to want to look for when we might be getting that market top, if money's going to leave the equities market, meaning money from the big boys is coming out of the SPY, coming out of the Qs, and coming out of those leading names like Apple, BABA, etc., typically that capital is going to go somewhere, right? And this is known as capital reallocation. Typically during the course of a pretty serious pullback, or I should say a good healthy pullback, we will see money leave the equities market and go into the quote-unquote safe havens such as gold, GLD, as long as the long-term treasuries, and that ticker for that is TLT. A good example, guys, is when the market dropped in August. We had been strong from June to July. On August 1st, the market started to roll over. Everything kind of connected the dots. Volatility was spiking like crazy above 16. The market was rolling over hard. Selling pressure was coming in. It was clear as day on the volume. And where did that capital go? You can see here, right on the 1st of August, or the last day of July there, we got a huge explosion in buying volume in gold, and this is where the money was going. Again, it's kind of that safe haven along with long-term treasuries. Same thing. If we look at TLT here, end of July, early August, huge explosion in buying volume. That's where the capital was going. So not saying a market top is anytime soon, but you don't want to step in front of a strong market. So to avoid doing so, these are a few things you guys can keep an eye on. Look for selling pressure in the equities market. Look for selling pressure in the indexes. Look for volatility to start spiking above 16 and staying above 16. And then keep an eye on gold and TLT. If the money's going to leave the equities, the strongest names that we've seen, and it's going to leave the indexes, it's typically going to go somewhere. So when we begin to see the combination of all those different things taking place, then maybe you have a conversation for calling the market top. Until then, watch your ass, be safe. I'll talk to you guys in the next video, and if you haven't already, subscribe.